to ClubhouseNews.com. You're tuned into Clubhouse News Weekend for the week ending Saturday, February 8th. I'm Gabriella.
And I'm Jesse. The 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia kicked off on Friday. It was awesome. The opening ceremony is a tradition that marks the official start of every Olympic Games. Each year, the country that is hosting the Olympics is expected to put on a spectacular show. And Sochi put on a show, Russian style. From the lighting of the Olympic torch to the Parade of the Nations, the opening ceremony was quite the spectacle. And Team USA looked great in their red, white, and blue outfits made by designer Ralph Lauren. It featured a display of Russian history put on by a group of 3,000 performers in an event called Welcome to Sochi, which highlights Russia's biggest points of pride, including classical music, ballet, and a performance by Russian President Vladimir Putin's favorite band. Now that the Winter Olympics have officially started, I can't wait to see all the amazing athletes compete. Go Team USA!
Speaking of Russia, did you know that just over 20 years ago, Russia was one of the many countries that belonged to the USSR, which stood for Union of Soviet Socialist Republics? The Soviet Union was a communist country, which means the government controls everything in the country. From the press to religion, everything was run by the government. But that all changed in the 1990s when the Soviet Union and their communist empire fell apart. Many of the Soviet Union's countries, including Russia, Armenia, and Ukraine, split off and developed their own governments. And while Russia is run by their president, Vladimir Putin, the Ukraine's president recently stepped down and left the country without a leader. That could all change very soon because 6'7" ex-Olympic athlete Vitaly Klitschko wants to become president of the Ukraine.
The main point, not to be the president, the main point to make changes in the country.
Klitschko is a great example of the modern-day athlete. He has a PhD, speaks 5 languages, and he won a silver medal for boxing at the Berlin Olympics.
Vitaly Klitschko is roughing Lennox Lewis up. And that is a great performance for Vitaly Klitschko.
If he can get into power and do as well as he did in boxing ring, well, it would be a real boost for Ukraine.
Whatever he hits, he destroys.
It makes me wonder if any other athletes will be looking for new jobs. Peyton Manning for president, anyone?
This week, American history was made when Janet Yellen, the first woman to ever run the Federal Reserve, was sworn in. The Federal Reserve is a central bank of the United States. It's in charge of printing all the money and keeping the economy going. Running it is a big job, but Yellen is up to the task. Yellen is hard at work because next week she's going to share her ideas on how to keep the U.S. economy going. I just hope she keeps the money coming.
As Yellen tries to boost the U.S. economy, Pope Francis raised over $400,000 for a charity auction after selling his Harley-Davidson and motorcycle jacket. As we reported recently, the leader of the Catholic Church blessed 800 motorcycles. He then signed a Harley's gas tank as well as a leather jacket for a charity auction that finished on Thursday. The auctioneer who sold the cycle and jacket in Paris
And we got $1. Who's gonna bet 2? Who's gonna bet 2? All right, say 2, say 2. All right, 3.
finalized the sale for an anonymous overseas buyer. The combined proceeds of the jacket and bike came out to over $400,000, which will go to Caritas Roma, a soup kitchen in Rome. $400,000 sure can feed a lot of people. I wonder who the anonymous buyer is.
I am very, very sneaky, sir.
I'm Joey with this week's Science and Tech News. Can you imagine traditional gas stations becoming a thing of the past?
Seriously?
Elon Musk, the modern-day Einstein behind Tesla Motors, certainly can. While car batteries used to take a back seat to gasoline-empowering vehicles, the Tesla Model S runs entirely on electricity, and it can travel from New York to Los Angeles in 76.5 hours. See, Musk wanted to prove that having to stop and change the Model S is not a big deal, so he installed charging stations in 73 locations across the US, with more coming soon. That's good news for electric car owners, and other companies like Chevy, Nissan, and Ford are going electric as well. In fact, cars that run 100% on electricity are outselling hybrids, which are cars that run on a combination of gasoline and electrically charged batteries. Will cars like the Tesla Model S one day become the norm? Well, for the sake of our environment and preserving natural resources, we certainly hope so. When I think of cavemen, I don't really think about having much in common with them. But it turns out we have more in common than we think.
We had no idea you guys were still around.
Yeah, next time maybe do a little research.
Neanderthals, also known as cavemen, have been extinct for about 80,000 years, but some of their DNA can be found today in modern Homo sapiens, which is the scientific name for us humans. DNA is a record of instructions that tells a cell what its job is going to be, kind of like when your coach tells you which position to take on the field.
But you have to stand up for yourself or they're going to ride you all season long.
Neanderthals, who were short and sort of ape-like, had thick hair and skin that kept them warm in the cold weather, which was definitely useful before the days of electrically heated homes, and still great today when you forget to bring your jacket to school. However, not all Neanderthal DNA is good for us, since apparently it makes us more vulnerable to things like liver disease and smoking addiction. Yuck! So, while you hopefully won't see any Neanderthals walking down the street, it's kind of cool to think we have a little bit of caveman left inside of us.
Shoes.
While we're on the topic of ancient humans, a 4,600-year-old Egyptian pyramid was recently found. The pyramid served as ultra-fancy burial sites for pharaohs, and it's still a mystery exactly how such a massive structure was built without modern-day construction technology. No one seems to agree on exactly how these were built. Were the blocks used to create pyramids dragged, rolled, or lifted into place? No one knows. But everyone does seem to agree that it would have taken tens of thousands of workers to create these massive structures. Researchers believe that these newly found little pyramids were abandoned to focus on the Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza is one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it includes the 3 Great Pyramids and the Great Sphinx of Giza, a statue of a mythical creature with a man's head and a lion's body. From the Great Pyramids to a great invention, a bionic hand. Thanks to LifeHand 2, a bionic hand, people with missing hands can experience the sense of touch once again. This new prototype, which is an early test version, was wired to 36-year-old Dennis Sorensen, who lost his natural hand in a fireworks accident 10 years ago. With this futuristic technology, he's able to feel objects and could even identify them while blindfolded.
So, hot.
Researchers are optimistic that this technology will be able to be used in the other replacement limbs like feet in the near future.
Hi, I'm Haley Ann, and here's what's happening this week in health and nutrition. Saudi Arabia, which is a country in the Middle East, is working on a DNA mapping project to promote the good health of its citizens. The Saudi government is partnering with Life Technologies to sequence or map out genes in one of the largest gene sequencing efforts ever. Each of us has unique DNA, which are tiny blueprints that tell our bodies how to grow and function. Inside DNA are smaller units called genes that are passed down from your parents. Genes affect everything from the color of your hair to how tall you're going to be.
Now you're 2 inches shorter, just like you used to be.
What's up, shorty?
But what many of us don't know is that genes can also determine diseases you may get. Genes provide instructions for making everything the body needs. But sometimes these little guys can work against us and cause things like diabetes, which is a blood sugar problem, or hypertension, which is high blood pressure. The Saudis plan to use the information gathered from the gene sequencing project to build a national database which will help to quickly identify diseases, maybe before someone is even born. If they are able to do that, doctors and parents will have time to take preventative measures against genetic disorders. We all want to be healthy, don't we? Well, according to the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, a large number of kids in the U.S. don't take their health very seriously. The FDA, who's responsible for protecting and promoting public health, is taking a stand against cigarettes. Why? Because the FDA says that every single day, 3,200 kids under the age of 18 try their first cigarette. The FDA has had enough, so they are unleashing an anti-smoking campaign called The Real Cost, which focuses on how cigarettes don't just cost money, they can also cost your hair, skin, and teeth.
Irritated eyes, tickling throat, dry hack.
That's because the chemicals in cigarettes are very damaging to your body. The FDA isn't alone in its efforts. The drugstore CVS is joining the campaign and even announced that it will stop selling cigarettes and other tobacco products. Maybe some other stores will join them. Hello, Walmart, are you listening? And while the tobacco industry is sweating over a loss of sales, we are wondering why we sweat. Whether you're playing an intense sport or you were nervous about presenting a school project, there doesn't seem to be a way to get around sweating.
Oh man, you just gotta play one game at a time and go out there and give 110%.
So what is sweat exactly and why do we do it? Well, there are actually two types of sweating. The first one is called thermoregulatory, which is when our bodies sweat in order to cool down from a hot day or a hard workout. Kind of like your own personal air conditioner. The second is known as emotional sweat. This happens when our body reacts to feelings of stress and excitement, like when you are nervous about a big performance.
I want to know your name.
The bottom line is sweating is perfectly natural, so don't sweat it, stay cool. And last but not least, did you know that having a pet can actually make it easier to make friends?
A dog doesn't care if you're rich or poor. Give him your heart, and he'll give you his.
And I don't just mean with your animals. A recent study says that people who form strong bonds with animals also tend to have better social relationships with humans. Not only that, but having a pet can actually boost your physical health as well. So they'll help you stay active and fit, like when you play fetch with your dog. Just having a pet doesn't count though, you actually have to care for it. I bet Dr. Dolittle and Ace Ventura, the pet detective, have tons of friends, furry and human.
Hi, I'm Devin with this week's Sports Report. Well, the Super Bowl is over.
Catch is always special for them.
And it's 36-0. You know what's a factor of 36?
And as for the game, well, it wasn't so super.
Why?
The game turned out to be a blowout starting from the opening snap. Seattle's defense completely stopped Denver's offense. In fact, Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning, who has been named the most valuable player 5 times, had what was probably his worst game of his entire career. Seahawks coach Pete Carroll had a much better game though. His Super Bowl win made him one of only 3 other coaches to win a college national championship and a Super Bowl. So congratulations, Coach Carroll. From the not-so-Super Bowl to what we hope will be a super event, the Sochi Winter Olympics. This weekend's events included men's downhill skiing, team figure skating, women's moguls, men's single luge, men's ski jumping, men's and women's speed skating, and men's and women's slopestyle.
12 new events.
The slopestyle course in particular was the source of some serious drama this week because it was just a bit too extreme. Several competitors have complained about the dangers of the course, and some have even dropped out of the competition, including U.S. super snowboarder Shaun White, also known as the Flying Tomato.
Definitely concerns about the course. It's been interesting to see how it's developed and changed over the past few days.
Many snowboarders say the course is too dangerous. White says the risk of injury in the slopestyle course is just too high, so that's why he bowed out.
In other Olympic news, U.S. downhill skiing champion Lindsey Vonn has found a new way to be involved with this year's event. As you may already know, she injured her right knee and announced she can't compete in this year's Olympic Games. Not to worry, Vonn is going to help cover the games as a correspondent for NBC, and she says she will be back on the slopes for the World Cup competition later this year.
The leader, Lindsey Vonn, into the lead by 0.7 of a second.
Hi, I'm Gabriella, back with this week's entertainment news. Well, happy 10th birthday to Facebook. Can you believe it? Facebook is 10 years old. Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook as just a tiny social network for Harvard students when he was a sophomore there back in 2004. It has since grown into a worldwide phenomenon that's literally changed everything from entertainment to how we make friends. Facebook may have started small, but it got big, fast. By the end of 2013, Facebook was being used by over 1.23 billion users worldwide, with the popularity of TV shows, video games, and movies rising or falling based on the number of likes they got.
Happy birthday to you.
If Facebook isn't already taking over your life, now it's introducing a new app called Facebook Paper. Even though people like to say that Facebook is yesterday's news, the company constantly reinvents itself, and Facebook Paper is no exception. These days, many people get their news from social media sites, so Facebook Paper combines the world news with your friend's status updates so you can see it all at once. And as Facebook turns 10, the world's first action figure, G.I. Joe, turns 50. Hasbro's legendary figurines were the first presented at the annual toy fair in New York City in 1964. And since most boys in the 1960s had a father or relative who was in the military, the little soldiers became quite popular. Over the next few decades, G.I. Joe expanded its reach into cartoons, movies, and comic books. Happy birthday, G.I. Joe! As G.I. Joe turns 50, Jay Leno says goodbye to The Tonight Show after 22 years. Jay Leno, who was 63, hosted his last episode on Thursday night, and he's now passing the torch to funny guy Jimmy Fallon. Leno's last episode was a star-studded event with appearances made by Oprah, Sandra Bullock, Jack Black, and Billy Crystal.
Don't know why I'm singing goodbye.
After 22 years, many things have changed, but one thing remains the same. Leno is a very talented guy. Jay Leno, you will be missed. And if you're thinking of going to the theaters this week, you may want to check out the Lego Movie. First of all, the writing is sharp, with jokes flying from animated Lego character mouths like lightning to tickle your funny bone.
Don't worry, Superman, I'll get you out of there. Don't! Oh my gosh, my hands are stuck. My legs are stuck as well.
What the heck?
The visuals? A stitched-together Frankenstein blend of old-school stop-motion animation and a slick digital imagery. As for the story, it's surprisingly deep. Construction worker Emmett Brikowski lives in a future controlled by entertainment companies. Coffee is $37 a cup.
That's $37.
Awesome!
A song called Everything is Awesome hypnotizes people into mindless fake joy, and everyone's encouraged to fit in with the crowd, just like a Lego piece clicking into place. That being said, it's not overly serious, and your eyes and ears will definitely be glued to the screen.
It's the year of the Lego Movie. See it in theaters this February.
While this year's Super Bowl wasn't terribly fun to watch, the halftime show and commercials certainly were. In fact, a record 111.5 million viewers tuned in this year's Super Bowl, making it the most watched TV event ever. Bruno Mars and the Red Hot Chili Peppers performed during the halftime show, and they were great fun to watch. But the commercials stole the show. Doritos had a cowboy kid riding his dog to lasso up a bag of chips from his brother. I literally laughed out loud watching it. Audi created their own hybrid dog called a Doberhuawa.
Save yourself!
And Beats Music had Ellen show off some of her best dance moves.
And they all danced happily ever after.
Hi, I'm Gabby, and here's what's happening around the world. We start out in China, where, believe it or not, it's still New Year's. Chinese New Year happens later than ours because they use a different calendar. Their New Year's celebration is filled with good times for all. And when it's over, hundreds of millions of Chinese citizens take buses and trains for the Lunar New Year ride home, in what is the largest annual human migration in history. Wow, imagine all the traffic. From China's hectic New Year traffic, let's take a look at some of the incredible architecture you'll see this year. From China all the way to Canada, architects are getting very creative in 2014. Let's take a look at the most impressive buildings from around the world. And finally, at the Auckland Zoo in Auckland, New Zealand, 2 baby red pandas were born. Their mom is 4-year-old Bo, and their dad is 13-year-old Cigar. The little guys also have an older brother named Pabu. Why don't the twins have names? Well, believe it or not, scientists won't be able to determine whether they're boys or girls until March. The sweet little cubs will remain with Mama Bo at Auckland Zoo before being sent to another zoo better suited for their care. These little cuties are on the endangered list, so the Red Panda Network and the Auckland Zoo are working hard to take special care of them.
Then I am your master.
Okay.
Don't cry.
Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe, and today in Animal News, we will learn about our newest animal hero, Iggy. Normally, when you put a cat and a dog together, you get chaos.
Get off of me, you furball! Take care of him, kid.
But not this time. Iggy, a 2-year-old stray dog living on the streets of Florida, came across Ruth the cat, and the two became fast friends. Ruth's back legs don't work, so Iggy is Ruth's protector. When the pair was rescued by Seminole Animal Shelter and Hollywood Hounds, Iggy wouldn't let the strangers near Ruth. Now, Ruth is receiving the treatment she needs, and Iggy is never far away. And how cute is this? Iggy shares toys with Ruth, and Ruth grooms and cuddles Iggy. Doesn't that sound like a perfect friendship?
Are you out of your mind?
Now, on to our peculiar animal of the week. The okapi. This bizarre-looking mammal is related to the giraffe family and is found in the Republic of Congo in Africa. The okapi has a very cool look, with zebra stripes from its hip to its rear, and is colored like a giraffe from its head to its hip. And get this, the okapi has a long blue and gray tongue that is so long it can reach all the way up to its ears. I guess that's how it does its grooming. The okapis are herbivores, which means they are vegetarians. They eat tree leaves, grasses, ferns, and fungi. And while what they eat is great for them, kids don't eat this at home because most of what they eat is poisonous to humans.
And while these guys are extremely cool, the reason you may not have seen many of them is because they are endangered. So next time you're on a jungle or rainforest expedition, make sure you keep your eye out for the okapi.
The 2014 Olympics in Sochi, Russia kicked off on Friday, and the Russian-style opening ceremony was awesome.
Former Olympic athlete Vitaly Klitschko is running for president of the Ukraine.
And finally, American history was made this week when Janet Yellen became the first woman to ever be in charge of the Federal Reserve.
Remember to stay tuned in to what's happening by going to our website at www.clubhousenews.com.
You'll find in-depth stories, videos, and much more. So until next time,
stay on top of the world with ClubhouseNews.com.